Neurodiversity in the workplace is so important to those with a neurodisability. John McDonald set up Eagles Wings Consultancy after an operation on his brain didn't go to plan, which left John with some deficits. John is now using his personal experience to help workplaces and organisations to become more neurodiverse. Here he speaks to NR Times on advice for those with a neurodisability looking to return to or start work, how workplaces can become more neurodiverse, and what the most common challenges in making workplaces more neurodiverse are.
I've got a background in healthcare. I've worked for the past 20 years in healthcare. I've worked in neurosurgical high dependency. For over 6 years I've worked in palliative care, end-of-life care for about 12 years. And in 2017 I had the operation for hydrocephalus, the fluid on the brain, which didn't go to plan. I often say to people that when they've done the operation that they filled my head with air, so I tell people I'm an airhead. But I ended up on ITU and come through that, and it's just left me with a few deficits which I found staying in employment quite difficult. And that's when I realised that maybe we can do something to help organisations understand hidden disabilities, neurological conditions and brain injury.
We asked John for what advice he would give to someone with a neurodisability on returning to or starting work.
It was quite daunting going back to work, because I think initially that was still me trying to figure out who I was as somebody with a brain injury, but then also working with the effects of the brain injury. So one of the things being fatigue. So going back to work and managing fatigue around working hours and then your social life on top, it become quite difficult, and I was getting very tired, and that affects your mood, and so everything has a knock-on effect. So it was quite difficult. I think the first step is kind of understanding who you are and what you can do and where you're at. Know your own coping mechanisms, have them in place, and then be open with your employer. And I like to be solution focused, so rather than just go to an employer and say I've got a brain injury, say I've got a brain injury, but this is how I cope. This is what makes me effective as a person, is having these coping strategies in place. And when I have those coping strategies in place, then I can function quite well within those.
So how does Eagle Wings Consultancy help workplaces and organisations to become more neurodiverse?
So the way that Eagles Wings Consultancy helps is in various ways. We can help put policies and procedures and understand that they're adaptable and have a look at what's happening there. We can help bring that culture into the workplace, so training disability champions so that there's somebody there to go to about how to work with disabilities, and again having informal team talk conversations. So they're more about can you use this word, can you not use that word, because there's a lot of treading lightly on things and people don't know. But in the main, actually working with disabilities can be quite simple if we break it down and work with it. Conversely, I like to break it down to, how does your disability affect you and what support do you need from me? When we work from that level, it gets very easy to get to the point of what needs to be done to bring change and bring change to an organisation. We can work one-to-one with organisations to find out what their needs are and how we can adapt things. And that's the other thing when it comes to adaptations. A lot of people think on cost and what needs to be done. Is any physical changes like a wheelchair access and things like that. But quite often, especially in neurodiverse conditions, it's low cost, low to the company, low impact to the company, but has a massive impact on the employees. Things like I'm noise sensitive, having soft keyboards works massively for me, but it also benefits the rest of the office. So those changes are quite small, quite low cost, but can have a big impact on bringing diversity in the workplace.
John filled us in on what the most common challenges are when helping workplaces to become more neurodiverse.
Well, that's an interesting one. I think one of the most common challenges is that people aren't sure how to work and what needs to be done, and we can come with preconcepts of like, oh, I done this with somebody the last time, this is going to work this time. Where actually, if we just sit and talk to people and having open conversations, that's the difficult bit to get going. But once you get those going, things work really smooth, because then middle ground being found and adaptations can be made. So it's that conversation, getting that conversation going is the hardest part, because as people with disabilities, we need to be confident to be able to have those conversations, and organisations need to be comfortable hearing them and adapting with them.
Finally, we asked John whether through his experience he's noticed a shift in trends and that more workplaces are looking to become neurodiverse.
I think there's a definite shift towards understanding and accepting neurodiverse conditions. There's a flexibility now that's starting to come into the workplace, and an understanding that this working with people with neurodiverse conditions and brain injuries is a very positive thing, because you get that diversity, you get those different perspectives on life, because we come with a different viewpoint of how we can do things, which can bring other changes. So there is a change to be done. I think there's still work to be done to keep that momentum and to keep building on it, but there's a definite shift towards more acceptance and more understanding.
Next to John is Eagles Wings Consultancy's mascot, Ernie. On the Eagles Wings website, you can find Ernie's tips, which has a lot of advice for workplaces, from how to communicate to what physical changes to make within the workplace. For more on John and Ernie's work, check out Eagles Wings Consultancy's website, eaglewingsconsultancy.co.uk.